Welcome to the Dope and Tape Show. I'm Brian, this is Shawn, we're here with Viking. I've been going around and looking at all the new products, and I came across these sprinkler heads at Viking, and they have the thinner arms. They look kind of different than what's going on, and I know that Viking's always been ahead of the curve, and it's always the best for the industry, and not just kind of how it looks. And what I wanted to know is why? Why do they look different? Could you tell me, Shawn?
Sure, absolutely. So ESFR technology is meant for high ceiling heights and high storage heights, and getting a lot of water down to the floor to combat that fire at the base of the structure.
Right, absolutely.
The fire tests that FM run on ESFR is basically full-scale fire tests that are 45-foot ceilings, 50-foot ceilings, 55-foot ceilings, really high, 50-foot commodity, and basically they fill those racks with cardboard and plastic depending on the commodity that you're testing. They walk out with a match and they light it.
Yeah.
And you sit back and you watch it go.
See how it goes.
See how it goes. So you have to get water down to the base of that fire. Otherwise, that entire commodity is going to go up in flames. It's going to spread across the cardboard and get to the end of the aisles.
Right.
That's a failure.
Right.
You're going to activate a lot of sprinklers. That's a failure. So ESFR has to be very efficient in getting that water down and penetrating into the fire. Now, how you do that is taking a particular sprinkler and running it through all the different tests that FM requires for this class of sprinkler.
Right, right.
A couple of those tests are thrust tests. They actually measure the amount of thrust of that center column of water at the base, and it has to be a certain value. In addition to that, you get a very large umbrella that is generated. So the combination of the deflector, slots, tines, and frame shape all give you the performance needed to pass those tests.
Okay.
And it's a whole series of tests. Some sprinklers, like the 14K, when Viking first developed this, it all was ADD testing.
Okay.
ADD testing is a series of pans underneath a plume of fire. We use heptane, and we ignite that heptane, and we turn the sprinklers on, and the water needs to penetrate through the fire. A couple things can happen. If the water droplet size is too small, it's going to get burned up by that fire.
Okay.
If the water droplet size is not traveling fast enough, it's going to get burned up by that fire.
As in if it's too big.
If it's too big, you want big.
Okay.
Big is going to get through the fire.
The shape and the diameter can slow it down.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you're hitting obstructions, you're hitting a frame arm, you're hitting the deflector.
And that's why your frame arm is thinner.
Yes.
Okay.
You want that water to not create a gap and have a dead space underneath the sprinkler.
Absolutely not. It's very important.
Fire will travel to where water is not. So you have to get water all over. So the shape of the frame arms is very aerodynamic, and we maintain laminar flow across that frame arm so that it fills in all the gaps. You get good coverage underneath. If you've ever been underneath an ESFR spraying, there is no dry spot. You are going to get really wet. It's spraying a lot of water, and it's covering the whole floor area. So the shape of the frame arm and the shape of the deflector dictate that.
Okay.
Now, when you go into the larger K factors, such as our 25 or our 28K, a lot of the testing was full-scale fire tests. And you had to pass those tests.
Okay.
They ran different clearances, they ran different commodities, and again, it's walking out into the center with a match and lighting it up. And watching it. The negative with that type of testing is it's very expensive. It takes a lot to set it up. It's very time consuming. The expense is also compounded with the problem of if they require 4 or 5 tests for this sprinkler at $100,000, $150,000 a piece, you run 1 through 3 and then fail test number 4, have to make a change, you have to repeat all those tests.
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
So it's very expensive. It's one of the issues in developing sprinklers is the cost associated with full-scale fires.
So much in here. This is thinner, and I like the shape of it. Now, I understand that it's a non-obstruction, but also this is completely different. I love what y'all are doing.
Yeah, so we do a lot of, we actually have an ADD apparatus at Viking. We can do all of that testing ourselves. So we can light a fire, collect the water, we can develop the sprinklers and base it upon previous sprinklers that have passed testing. We might do some comparison. This sprinkler did really good. This sprinkler we're developing. We can get that knowledge of it's going to do really well at the lab.
Okay. And this wild guy with the big deflector, can you explain that to me?
Sure. So this is a little bit of a old school type sprinkler. It's a carryover from our C-frame type style, which is really old. We wanted to do a upright ESFR. Nobody has one, and this was developed a while ago. We had a different deflector. It was a spec app deflector, and we had this frame. Basically, I don't want this to oversimplify this, but we combined this deflector and this frame, and it worked really well.
Wow, yeah.
So why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly, absolutely.
Right? This is a little bit different in its shape, but it's also an upright. Upright, if you think about being on the top of the pipe, you don't care if you have as much of a split on the frame arm because you're going to get a split from the pipe.
Right, that's very true.
You can't avoid that.
No.
Now the height of this is helping with that because the taller this is, the less frame shadow you get from a pipe on the underside, but you're always going to get it. That's one of the reasons why pendant technology is, in some senses, better than upright because you don't have pipe shadow. Okay. Now the downside is pendants can get damaged by forklifts and commodity and so forth. Uprights are protected by pipe. So there's pros and there's cons to each one of those.
Wow. Man, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right, cut.